Yes, indeed, indeed, indeed. We are here, we are here, we are here. Welcome to the stream, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. The Zenith ProEU PUBGM PMCO EU Scrims are here for the evening. I know, it's a lot to say in one sentence, but we'll get there. I'm not alone on the casting desk. No. I have the pleasure and honor once again being joined by the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only HighlandWolf.
I'm here. Hello.
You are here. You are here indeed. How are you doing?
The first one. I'm doing good. I survived the first night here, so I made it over the second night. Someone's been doing something right, I suppose.
You're definitely doing something right. You're definitely doing something right. But the thing is, can any of these teams that we have participating tonight do something right in these games?
Yeah, that will be interesting. And we've got a lot of teams here, a lot of good teams, just say here tonight. And starting off with MVP Gaming to TNB, Universe, Extreme, The Real Deal, Scrim Farm, Clay, GLA, Bloodshot, Be My Loot, Time to Shine, 4 Romanian Men, The Sirens, Team Push, Gamers Unite Nations, Omega Dragons, and the Romanian squad. And that is a really stacked list of teams here.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really exciting because we don't often get to see a Zenith Scrims where there's this many good teams playing in one night.
No, we have had over the last couple of nights pretty strongly when I was doing it with Max. But the team the team for me that I'm really looking out for, HighlandWolf, is the Noisy Boys. You know, this is a team that have evolved and you know, risen more heavily off the back of the spring PMCO split. They have a very strong team led by Agon with Ked alongside two former teammates of the former Red Reserve squad. And yeah, with the rest of the lobby, they are really strong.
And I think not only do we have to also look at the Noisy Boys, but even the likes of 4 Romanian Men, Sirens, I've seen before, good teams once again, as well as even the Real Deal, another team that I'm going to be looking out for to performing really well tonight. And especially as we start on a wrangle, a lot of these teams, all of these teams should be used to this map, considering it is the most favored map for competition play. So it's going to be really interesting to see how to start off here in the kind of comfort zone before then going over to the kind of less used maps of Sandhawk and Miramar later on tonight.
110%. Sandhawk and Miramar and 2 Orangles. It's a normal bookending that we have in the Zenith ProEU Scrims. Because we know that when it comes to competitive setting, the majority of the players, as I need to turn my volume up, the majority of the games are played on Orangle, so it's important that the teams get as much preparation and practice in for that competitive setting. However, HighlandWolf playing trajectory is looking pretty nicely from the west to the east.
Yeah, the playing path is looking very kind to these players so far. Gonna see how the zone plays out once we get past the first minute and a half or so. But gonna be looking at the drop locations of these teams. We likely expect them to drop around Pachinki, Primorska maybe for some teams. Sivnovka maybe even be an option as well. Teams are maybe gonna drop instead, perhaps around Farmilta, say Pachinki School, Roshok gonna be those many areas. Also, Georgia Pole gonna be a favorite for these teams as usual.
Yeah, MVP, a team who like to land around the west side of the map, either around the quarry or even to the west of quarry. That's exactly where they are moving. The Noisy Boys spreading them out around the Gaka area. That's a normal drop spot for them. But Romanian squad are also going to be in between MVP and the Noisy Boys.
We're going to have to see how that plays out because that will be a very interesting one. Noisy Boys here look like they are split in kind of this kind of Y-shaped formation starting out here. So they are all one player solos here in the side of the game. And with so many teams around them here, kind of pinching them from all sides, they could be taken out if they can't form up together after getting the loot early on.
We're also seeing Team Push going to their normal spot of Kameshki. out of sight, out of mind. The east side of Svalbard going to be unfavored by these teams, so it gives a lot of space for team push. Phase 1 circle, HighlandWolf. Is it going to be a military island finish?
Well, would be very interesting to see teams how they lock down the bridge. We see many different tactics from teams with vehicles, without vehicles, with the high ground even sitting on top of the bridge itself to try to camp down invading teams onto that South Island. So if we do get lucky enough to have that, and also Sovnovka being that untouched area by every single player in this game so far, perhaps see also if we see teams make those early rotations as well to that South Island.
Seeing Johnny, a member of a Romanian squad, being taken out by the two-man team of the Noisy Boys. Like I said, these teams were dropping around the area, so it's always going to be a little bit difficult. And the spread is potentially going to hurt Ked on the other side, because there is two members of... Well, actually, one member of Romanian squad and one member of MVP inside the same compound. It's rare we see that kind of thing so early in the game, right? As Ked has dropped Senzo, so that's a little bit of a clean advantage in the favor of Ked initially. Because of course, kind of taking on two squads, it's going to be a little bit difficult for him, HighlandWolf.
And as you say, going to be difficult because not only do you have MVP there, but you've also got the side of Roscu as well, Romanian squad down to your south end. And Killer there might be a little bit of trouble for the Noisy Boys trying to recuperate. Is that free man? Perhaps we may even see a rotation, as we do see actually now Aegon and Whiskey going to be moving closer to Ked to deny Romanian squad this potential pick down in this compound.
Yeah, and I think that's really valuable that the members of the Noisy Boys are joining up together. Leaving Fresh further away, but that's pretty standard for the Noisy Boys. Still threading with caution for Whiskey and Agon as they use that little bit of a low ground by the side of the road that they can get any kind of peak angle shots on towards that player of a Romanian squad, and even any potential players in the backline for MVP. It's just really cautious play while also being intelligent at the same time. We do know that the Noisy Boys are an aggressive side, so they will always be up for taking a fight, but being able to be clever about it and knowing when to pull it off is twice as important.
And it's so great to see actually Noisy Boys getting these early kills as well. We saw Ked just getting rid of one of the MVP squad there, as we actually do see Senso fall down in that 1-for-1 trade around that compound before the Noisy Boys recuperated together. But now that they're that 3-member team, they're now just going to likely rush down the side of Ra, who is already low out of healing and won't take too much unless Ra can pull off an absolutely miracle play 1 versus 2 with that Uzi.
Oh, smoke being thrown up by Ra. Provide that little bit of cover as he looks to get into the smaller part of that building. He does have an Uzi, although it's only a 25 clip Uzi, so those shots are really going to have to be truly accurate onto the members of Noisy Boys. And the Molotovs are going to go flying. That's going to see him burn. Baby burn. Disco Inferno Ra is gonna go down, and you know what, like it's not much, but I love that little bit of safety on the side of Noisy Boys. Yeah, of course they technically didn't have to use the Molotov, right? But they heavily didn't know for sure how many players are in that house, right? So even if they had to send 2 people up, there could have been 2 people inside that building on the top floor. So having that Molotov to secure the knockdown, it's just that extra level of security, and it really shows the intelligence they have as a team.
Yeah, and I think, obviously, as you say, you don't have really... Perhaps you have eyes on Rambo there from Fresh, but you definitely don't have the eyes on Killer, who you don't know where they are going to be in that map. And you say that was just a very clean maneuver from the Noisy Boys to get another kill on board. They're now up to 3, which early on is very good, considering we have also limited MVP and remaining the squad down to 3 and 2 members, respectively, as well. So now they're going to be able to control this kind of southwestern edge of the main island, and then move their way closer through this bridge. And we actually have seen a number of teams already rotate into the South Island, and it does look to me like a Mega Dragon is going to be controlling this bridge from teams moving in.
Yeah, nice bridge camp coming out from Omega Dragons on the mainland side, able to punish a couple of members of 4 Romanian men. Took down one Broody, who got a beautifully fantastic 1v3 in yesterday's scrims, getting the other knockdown on towards Dexter. And I gotta say, it was a poor rotation for 4 Romanian men when you really think about it. They shouldn't have been so wild on that. The blue zone is closing on phase 1. It was too late to in any way get a clean rotation into the military island from the mainland at that stage. We do see Clay Alpha, or Clay GLA, should I say, moving and rotating down to within a close proximity of Omega Dragons.
Yeah, and Clay gonna have to avoid making those same mistakes, but I definitely agree with you here. When we're at 7 minutes, when the side of 4 Romanian men started to get pressed, they had already lost one member and lost a second, being knocked up and just left to rot down on the cliff side by Omega Dragons. But when you allow 6 minutes of space between that zone pop in phase 1 and then teams to rotate around before you make the move yourself, you have to expect that teams have made that early rotation, especially when that zone is so heavily favored towards that South Island. The entire South Island in play, and it's very, very unlikely that even in phase 2 that island would even shrink to about half that size.
It's also the fact that if they've been looking at the scrims for more than a second, they would also know that Omega Dragons like to land around the western bridge side of the mainland, so it's a normal easy access point for them when we have this kind of circle. We did see Azzy from the Real Deal getting knocked down onto one of the members of Be My Loot, but without any clear push coming out from Spray and Shifu to support Azzy is being a little bit more careful. And we do see once again, the Noisy Boys putting pressure onto the side of 4 Romanian men, leaving them down to just one player left standing. Rana got further on the backside. Going to be taken out most likely by the Noisy Boys, and clean as a whistle. That's going to be 5 kills for the Noisy Boys in the early parts of the game. Thank you for the follow, and welcome to the Ginger
Club. What we're trying to do in terms of then rotating around the edge of the APM Primorsk and then making their way round the edge of the ocean and in through the cliffs on the western side of Southern Africa, but you can't be doing it that late, and plus there's already teams anyways in that water making that rotation, so even if they did manage to pull it off, MVP, Danny and Neymar were already in the water moving that way already. And I think had they then made it onto the cliffside, they would have just been then taken out by MVP instead.
We have seen a couple of boat rotations coming out.
Thank you for the follow.
MVP going down to Primorsk and have a nice clean entry point. Scrim Farm following suit, but I think they know that there's not really too many boats available. But phase 2, okay, so it's gone more towards a military island, but because it's gone quite heavily to the west compared to the east, it still has mainland and a hell of a lot of water in play, HighlandWolf.
Yeah, and as we always say, it's going to feel more like a phase 3 rather than a phase 2 because of all that water in play. Like 30% of this zone currently including water. And I think what we're going to see, especially from Omega Dragons, just holding firm on this location around the bridge.
For sure.
Because if that zone does shift north, they are going to have an absolute field day in terms of kills as teams desperately try to rush through that choke point.
We saw Sirens who dropped in Severny and have rotated all the way down to Primorsk. Now, on one hand, it makes sense because Primorsk is their second drop spot location, so they tend to know it, you know, let's say more heavily than other areas in the map. But when you consider that phase 1 was already on the west, near towards the western military island, it would have made sense that they had have gone towards on the east bridge because there's less chance of teams being on the east side bridge of military island. But you know, let's see how it does pan out for them as the teams are moving in. Still, X team are in Milta. They've yet to make their way into military island.
Yeah, perhaps gonna be a very quick rotation from them towards military island. They're gonna be the last team there on that side of the map to rotate in, currently navigating their way through the red zone. Hope that none of them will be knocked inside of that water would be detrimental.
Burian with a nice spray onto Mario of Team Push. Side of Bloodline, they made their way across the water from the mainland. A little bit of an orange rock rotation coming out from them. They're able to take advantage of Team Push, who were just passing on by, minding their own business. And now suddenly they have to rethink how they want to play around this potential fight. I do think that Burian maybe struck a bit too early because the rest of the team has yet to fully make their way into the mainland. So there's a chance that, let's say, All In or Northend could get struck while they are moving in from the waterline.
Well, unfortunately, yeah, I do have to agree that unfortunately Buren giving a position away, the rest of the side of Bloodline not available to support, and as they just make that rotation, the side of Team Push behind that compound, behind the hill where they can't shoot, they're just going to take that high ground and then rotate further away and deny Buren any more chance to get those kills, which, as you say, had they been a full team, they could have then sprayed down upon them and put more pressure on the side of Team Push. But we see more kills going to go on Kill Feed. Just really managed to find one himself.
Yeah, the Noisy Boys just striking once again, getting 2 knockdowns into the members of Universe. They want to take out as many players as they can in this lobby before the next circle does shift on through. Gold Touch is just jumping his way, using that little bit of a dip to side that he can get protected on. But the other members of the Noisy Boys are coming onto the other side of that road, up the hill. Ked is going to get sprayed upon. He's going to have to move away from that boogie. Indeed, he does. Error from Universe, going a little bit further up. But Ked strikes. He connects. He knocks down Gold Touch. And that leaves Error on his own. And Error is basically just getting the hell out of there.
Yeah, and that was so smart from the Noisy Boys, not only with that rotation, which could have looked a bit scary for Ked, but Ked knew exactly that the rest of the Noisy Boys had that position covered and had them pinned. So when actually the side of Universe went to try get that first then onto Ked when he stopped moving, they then revealed their head, and from there they could get those headshots in, and you saw actually them just go down so fast. Error, as you say, the only one alive, and the Noisy Boys surely going to hunt them down, eliminate them from the team. But also, the Noisy Boys, they're the last to rotate really inside that South Island, and that could cost them to their disadvantage getting all these kills from the remaining teams, because now this space on the South Island is so crowded, there's going to be nowhere for the Noisy Boys to settle on.
It's true, but like I said, we know they aren't afraid to take a fight, so they won't be afraid to fight their way in. We did see Scrimfarm thrown, rotating really nicely onto the military island on the south side, and came up and took down a member of the Real Deal. Now, of course, they can play along the coastal line as the next phase is going to show up. And it shifts quite heavily up the northeast, HighlandWolf.
Well, that's what we said about Omega Dragons just holding firm on that position on the bridge, because now that North Cliff base is in place still, and that could be really dangerous if we do see a zone shift. It would be very interesting towards that north bridge and towards that north side of the map currently in play. All these teams can make that rotation around, and gonna be UPS actually gonna be the actual team with the most advantage in terms of most opportunities to get most kills in this game in this third phase zone.
Hopefully Team Push, or as you call UPS, can deliver the package. That would be a chicken dinner in this game one in Erangel. Decided Gun holding on to that nice, lovely southwestern side of the circle. It's on the high ground. Well, relatively on the high ground, but it is coastal line, so they can keep an eye on what is going on in around the water and that bridge area. It's a vast open land, so it is going to be possibly a little bit more difficult for them to get further inside the circle, as they see the members of the Real Deal rotating up the hill, trying to get away after they lost a player at the hands of Scrimfarm.
And this is where losing players, not having even 4 players in terms of really in your team to begin with, is going to really affect you with a zone like this with 13 teams still alive and not that much really maneuverability in terms of these teams to get round into the play area because of that river cutting through that entire play zone. It's going to be difficult, as I say, to try find a spot to settle on. And I think towards these hills, just kind of southeast, if you like, of where that airdrop is currently situated, and that might be the best location for these teams inside those buildings as well.
This circle shift did actually favor Sirens even though they're on a 2-2 split for now, where they were moving, where Luna and Aaron were moving to, was where Scrim Farm was. But because the circle shifted out north, Scrim Farm swiftly moved away, so it kind of helped them. As the X team are trying to clap back onto the members of Scrim Farm, putting them down to 2 players. Lanu went down. Now it's just Pico and Jody left, or Peko should I say, and Jody left standing. As I pan on over the side of Omega Dragons, who've been in this area for pretty much since the start of the game, have met possibly their match at the hands of the Noisy Boys. Sebi has gone down. Of course, Ked is being very, very aware of what is going on. Broody is on top of the rock, able to get a lovely clear couple of shots on towards Whiskey, but yet to get that knockdown. So Broody is going to be under a lot of pressure as the members of Noisy Boys are going to be coming up on top of the hill. It's going to be quite difficult. Of course, he's able to play towards that roof, get a couple of those angles, use the high ground to his advantage, but at the end of the day, the man power from the Noisy Boys could be too much to handle. And indeed, even though he got knocked down onto Whiskey, Fresh pushed in and was able to get that counter knock and confirm that kill. Omega Dragons down to just 2 players.
Fresh using that grenade there to smoke and a cloud the side of Omega Dragons positioning there on that roof, and the Noisy Boys just picking apart the dragons here, dissecting them from that bridge side, and only actually the side of Antifa and also Naka, who made that rotation earlier on, are still alive. They're gonna have to hope that they can stop the Noisy Boys on this bridge, or risk moving closer towards that South Island and trying to find a position on the beach. But the Noisy Boys are the ones in their control, exactly where Omega Dragons were just a couple of minutes ago.
So phase 4, shifting back down on towards the southwest. X team tried to move away, but they've Gun looking in their direction. 2 members of X team being taken down. That's going to leave Erland on his own behind a rock. But indeed, he's going to get spotted out by Bamula from another off angle. So great play by the members of Gun as they secure another couple of kills on their push down towards the hill. Southwest side of the circle is in their favor. You have MVP below them, The Real Deal, and Time to Shine. No teams are in the center of the circle. Even possibly The Real Deal, kind of, but it's not the same kind of center circle as you might see in other games.
Well, my prediction was right for game number 1. That spot on top of that hill inside the central zone, that southeast of the airdrop, the east side of the Real Deal and MVP there is going to be the strongest location, I do think, for spotting these teams moving in and also trying to find out exactly where teams are looking to try take in this zone. We see TNB actually going to be moving closer in. They secure those final kills onto Omega Dragons. They're going to be out of the game. Also does look like Time to Shine going to be eliminating a team of their own. These 2 players here. It
was pretty much that Gun sent a scout forward down towards the compounds, and Time to Shine took him out. And I think that's pretty good for Gun. You don't necessarily want to lose a player, but considering they had a full squad, having that sacrificial lamb as opposed to breaching it into a full compound and losing that fight by not being prepared is pretty good. So I don't mind what Gun did with Outro going down inside towards that compound. Blue Zone is once again moving in. Next phase is about to move on up. The Noisy Boys being able to go across the bridge onto the north side of the circle, and it does shift once again in the west, where a good few of the teams are in the circle team push. The Real Deal along with the Noisy Boys.
Noisy Boy is going to be securing the highest point though of this cliff phase here and of this zone as teams circle around him from behind. Both Gamers United Nations and Siren's going to be 2 at once. The Noisy Boys are taking down 1 team, but can they take down 2? They're firing down here, and Siren's going to lose 2. Only going to be Luna remaining.
Luna's going to be so low in health, going to be taken down by Gun. Actually got pinched by 2 teams. A bit of a feels bad man game for the side of Sirens. They battled against the blue for the majority of the game, and it came back to bite them in the ass. The side of MVP on the south tip of the circle, looking towards the side of Time to Shine. Time to Shine have to shine their way into the circle like the crazy diamonds that they are. they're in any way going to keep surviving in this game. Scrim Farm also looking to try any kind of angle inside the circle with Team Push and the Real Deal holding on to those 2 golden compounds that are in the center of this phase 5.
Well, those compounds are going to be such value for these teams because it's the only shield that these teams really get against the Noisy Boys on this cliffside. And Gamers United Nation's going to be trying to take it down against the Noisy Boys, who are up to 12 kills already here inside the final 10, looking to make it even more. And if they can't be stopped, it's going to be
Thank
a
you
massive
for the follow and
first
welcome
win
to
for them.
the Ginger Club. Now we see Zaniel in previous scrims and previous games be a little bit of a clutch for Gun. He's took on a mighty teams and survived. And of course, the Noisy Boys are a different beast. A different beast that are up as a full squad. But Whiskey gets dropped by the side of Bloodline from the back angle play. So the downhill area that is more exposed from the likes of Bloodline is going against the Noisy Boys. Ked, although in saying that, Ked is just coming in and performing a one-man crew. But before he's able to secure those kills, he gets dropped by the members of Bloodline. That go for this fight between the side of Gun and his Noisy Boys. The Noisy Boys going to be pushed on, and that's going to be Gun taking advantage of a weakened the Noisy Boys and wiping that squad out. 5 teams left in this game in a matter of seconds with 15 players in the lobby.
Well, the Noisy Boys tried picking off more teams that they could choose there, trying to take down the side of Bloodline with Ked. They could have perhaps thrown a grenade onto 2 members, which they were starting
Thank you
to
for
think
the
about
follow.
cooking,
Welcome
and
to
then
the Ginger
assassinated
Club.
the player, the sole player of Bloodline that they were directly behind already, but couldn't pull it off that 1 versus 3. And because Ked died just out of place and attacking another team, the rest of Noisy Boys were vulnerable to both Sirens and Gamers Unite Nations, who as 2 teams together were finally able to best that team.
This is such an awkward circle because right in the center of this phase is just open road, right? So you've got the 2 high grounds either side, west and east, which is held on to by 2 teams. You have the 2 compounds, which is held on to 2 other teams. So however this circle goes, it's gonna push a few teams out. So right now, it's a matter of just these teams trying to do anything they can to get as many kills and punish the teams. But MVP coming in from the outside of the circle using the wall that they're able to in some way hold on. But the Real Deal on that third party angle is just going to push on and take out MVP. The information wasn't there. MVP got wiped out. 4 teams left standing.
Gamers United Nations also going to struggle here against Bloodline on that cliffside. Going to be taking down Gamers United Nations as they lose Daniel there. That's going to hurt them making that rotation in, as that zone has just shifted down. Phase 6 here, 25 minutes into the game, and that has still shifted onto the road there. Only that kind of edge of the hill in play, and it's going to be desperate for these teams to perhaps use smokes now to make their way in and just try to provide some sort of cover inside this very open zone.
Gun and Bloodline, they're both screwed. Let's be perfectly honest. It's a matter of making the best of a bad situation. Just as I say, Gun are screwed. They get absolutely eliminated, wiped off the floor. I believe a little bit of a third party by the hands of Team Push up and towards that hill because Gun were trying to get away from Bloodline. But now, as Bloodline move down a little bit closer towards the circle, it's a matter of can Team Push hold on against the Real Deal and Bloodline. But Bloodline are going to go for that lovely 2-2 split with confidence and vigor as one member of the Real Deal gets dropped just as he is now left standing. Team Push have 3 members up. The grenades are being flown in by the side of Bloodline. All in. Going to go inside that window along with the support of Norfen. Will they be able to close out and take out the side of the Real Deal? Of course, Team Push were able to come in and get a little bit of a third party. It is still going to be 2 members up as Kapahala gets dropped to the floor across the road. Team Push go. We've got 3 teams inside this small area. 2v1v2. Thank you for Team Push did lose Bobby, but you still have Sportsman and CLW. Grenade's gonna go flying in, followed by a Molotov. Bloodline not accurate enough on that push against the Real Deal. Meant that the Real Deal are able to hold on, but Azzy on side that roof play seals that kill away from Bobby.
And look at how insane this is on this rooftop here. The real deal, there's no way up to them. They're grenading and smoking that staircase. And Team Push are on the ground. Both Bloodline are on the ground. It was an excellent rotation in from Bloodline to try bait down the real deal as they move 2 members in that vehicle close and into that building there now. Also, Team Push are the ones vulnerable. Just gonna be a couple of grenades here. Standstill between these 3 teams. Gonna have to wait for that zone shift once again. Phase 8 now. It looks like none of these teams really in apart from Team Push.
As the zone is gonna close in, Bloodline are gonna be more in the forward thinking side, as he's gonna be low in health. In amongst the souls, gonna go for that little bit of drop, but it's gonna get taken out by CLW. Snaking in, all in, gonna come down. He's gonna get taken out by CLW. Spray's gonna take down Bloodline, and it comes to this 1v1. Sorry, 2v1 should I say, because this side of Team Push are going to get that revive. In theory, onto Spray. Is Spray on his own.
He has to make it through the zone.
He has to make it in through the snow, and he has to push in. Of course, he was able to loot up his opponent a little bit. He's going to cook up a grenade on the side of the building. Is that going to connect? It's going to get 1 member up. Sportsman goes down. It gets Spray a bit of an angle to try and push in. He's going to move out of his shack onto the side of the US. He's repositioning. This is phase 8 with the red zone closing in. Go for it, Spray. Full send it. No flight, all fight. As you're holding onto the side, don't let the revive to be pushed through. I know they're inside that building, so you have a potential angle once you open the door. But as the revive comes on, CLW has been taken out. He's not taken out. He has been able to pro down. He took down the side of Real Deal with that prone drop shot coming through, and Team Push claimed the chicken dinner.
That was so insane. TRD did not go for that finish through that door. They should have sprayed down in that corner if they had that opportunity. They played it so well, though, to get to that second position. Bloodline played that insanely well as well to bait down the Real Deal and weaken that team with the bait on 2 people in the car earlier on in that phase 6 zone to make it down the hillside. While one of Bloodline held back, sacrificed himself just so they could fire down onto the Real Deal as they tried to poke their heads out and take down Bloodline, but to no avail. The Real Deal second place, and Team Push with that zone shifting around them gonna secure that first place chicken dinner.
Wow, so close towards the end. The Real Deal, even though they only started with three players, are still able to end with 11 kills. Thank you for the follow and welcome losing Shifu relatively early on as well at that, so it's just Azzy and Spray left standing. Bloodline really held on to that high ground inside Military Island, towards the western side of Military Island, really accurately. Took down Ked. We're able to get those revives up. We're still up as a full squad, and I would like to have seen Eurofan and All In be a bit more aggressive onto the side of the Real Deal when they did breach that building, but they didn't breach it properly, and therefore technically in theory gave that team fight. Thank you for the follow and welcome to the Ginger But Gun in 4th, taking down the Noisy Boys, getting 7 kills for themselves. That's pretty good. And MVP in 5th with 2 kills.
Yeah, and as you say, that's going to just be all they wrote for the first game, and that was an absolutely very interesting and epic game for game number 1 there. That zone really pulling out all the stops and how these teams are being forced to rotate, and we get to see how these teams make those rotations, especially just in the first game. And looking at how these teams made their way into zone, how they chose to fight their way or passively make their way into zone, kind of sets it up now for how we expect these teams to play moving into games 2, 3, and 4. But gonna be another team fight heavy map here for game number 2 with Sandhawk, and that can be even more brutal than Erangel.
110%.
Thank you for the follow and welcome to the
Well, man, so game 1 over and done with here in the Zenith ProEU Scrims. Gonna go for a little bit of a short break, and then afterwards we'll be back for game 2. So do not go away.
Thank you for the follow and welcome to the Ginger Club.
Yep, and what we've had is an absolute epic game on Erangel so far. I mean, I always like to see the zone shift around to Southern Ireland because it always creates that really interesting rotational game rather than just about teams running around, getting kills, and then running into zone and doing the exact same. And when you have that kind of split where you have a river or some form of water between teams or some form of high ground to block teams moving into that kind of late stage zones, that then makes it really interesting on how teams move about a zone rather than just getting those team fights. Yeah, this playing path going to be very kind once again, just like we saw on Erangel. for these teams, but it's not like the playing path. It's about where the zone lands Imperium and how nice that's going to be and determine the rest of this game for these teams. There's a lot of water, a lot of space around Sandhawk. 4 teams to be cut off from that main central island, whichever one it will be, towards the later stages of the game. We've seen a really nice split of teams also going to be split generally just one team to one area of the game so far, so don't expect too much team fighting to play out early on here. Well, you only get to see it really at the start of the game because really no one really takes a shotgun until later games for good reason, unless you're gonna barrel someone on the staircase later on in the phase 8 zone. Right. Right, so keep an eye out and also just note that whichever island this zone rotates to will determine exactly how this plays out. But note that Painan's going to be perhaps going to be the most likely, I suspect, 4 teams to be fighting around. But also note that bridge to the west side and also just north of Painan as well. Going to be those 2 locations as well. And also the slightly smaller bridge moving around those compounds on the other side to the west of Boot Camp. Going to note all of these ways down to that South Island, because the South Island is really the only island that has its entirety still inside the zone. So it's going to be the most likely island and where we'll likely see these teams rotate to predict this zone moving into later phases. Yeah, and with that experience comes just generic sort of ability to play under these high pressure games where you do have many good teams in this scrim tonight, and it almost feels, rather than just a scrim, but more feels like you're actually playing a much harder game tonight, because you've got, as we say, 15 other teams around you that could all equally be in PMCO if the majority of them aren't already, of course, in PMCO already. Well, that's what we saw earlier on with the real deal, unfortunately. I suppose it doesn't say the Noisy Boys earlier on in game number 1 versus the enemies of Bloodline later in that game, where we saw themselves split into 2 different teams, if you like, and then get taken out one team at a time. Ked first, then the rest of the Noisy Boys later. And as you say, Formania men gonna repeat that mistake in game number 2 here in Sandhawkers. Scrims Farm gonna look to try to put more pressure on them, and WWS going very, very low. Right, and that's because of all of these teams have rotated down from the main part around Paradise Resort, around Bound Boot Camp, and even as we see teams like, of course, Romanian squad and also Clay GLA moving down around that Northern Island as well, down into the south. So all of these teams going to be congested around the bridges, as we said earlier on, around Painan specifically, as we see that area be the most congested for teams.
Sorry about that. I didn't realize that I actually had my mic muted on the broadcast. If it's not one thing that I mess up and it's another, and I'm just really not that good of a streamer. But the real deal, let's see if they can have their mics unmuted as they try to get the comms onto each other while dealing with this fight on at the hands of MVP. MVP do have all 4 members up. They have the high ground overlooking the real deal, with a Shifu being dropped, so it leaves Azzy and Spray left standing. But we know that the real deal are easily able to pull out a strong performance out of the bag, even with only 2 members up, because it happened in the Erangel game as well, and they still finished second.
Well, no, that actually MVP have been pushed out, Painan, so I should say, by the Noisy Boys into the real deal and team push. The Noisy Boys going to be that team back, are now going to be in control of Painan, and just flood waves of bullets down onto MVP as Danny's going to be knocked, and with Tico down to also 66% health, and the rest of them kind of split 2 for 2. They're going to be pushed against all of these teams, and I fear for MVP that they are not long for this second game.
And plus, if they will go over into the other side of the hill to avoid the Noisy Boys, the team push looking in their direction as well. Okay, they do have 3 huge gigantic rocks they can in some way disengage close to, but it's still not going to be easy for MVP to protect the area that they currently hold onto, as Tika does indeed get dropped again by MVP. So sorry, by the Noisy Boys. So that means that in theory the Noisy Boys could make the push up the hill, but I think because they are in Painan, they're comfortable at where they stand, where they are heading in towards phase 3.
Right, well, Painan also going to take an eye on that bridge down to the south of the compound there, where the real deal Azzy and also the entire squad of Sirens going to be rotating into, and later Bloodline also as well. So there's going to be plenty of opportunity for the Noisy Boys once again to play their aggressive game, to get those kills on board, as we've seen them do in game number 1. But also keep an eye out on this zone does continue to shift further south. That Painan might not be that location safe, but never mind, it will be. And all of these teams going to be generally still inside of his zone, and it's going to force these teams to play along this kind of line, as you said, of teams on this northern end of the island.
See, here's the thing. This is where the dynamic rotation of the likes of Gun has really paid off for them, right? Because as phase 3 has centered up once again, a little bit more toward the north side of the Southwest Island, there's so much space for Gun to just push in, because they wrapped around past Camp Charlie down on that further southern bridge, avoiding the likes of Be My Loot and Sirens and Bloodline, and now they have plenty of space to move in and locate the high ground overlooking the other teams while they take each other out.
And Noisy Boys going to be that team, as we say, still to get these kills now onto Bloodline moving through the bridge. But I definitely think that Gamers Unite Nation's going to be a team that needs to perhaps take these compounds just on the south side, wait for teams to make those rotations as well, as I imagine they will do so. And going to also be interesting to see the rotations from the side of Romanian squad and also Clay GLA making their way down from the north side, and perhaps going to be a team fight congested on this bridge.
We've seen Ali getting dropped, a bit of a third party as Sirens were more looking in the direction of Bloodline, who moved away from their current spot. I think Bloodline trying to go for a further wrap around either on the north side or the south side. It seems like they're heading towards the north side, which is fair enough. And talking about Romanian squad, like, it is going to be relatively easy for them because they can stop by the edge of ruins, get a little bit of information, and then kind of make their way up. And there is the high ground to the south of ruins that they can move on to.
Well, unfortunately, they left one behind, and that one behind is Rambo, and they're going to be knocked down on that bridge now. Going to be unfortunate that leaving them behind, but down to 3 members. And Clay GIA don't really care that, unfortunately, they've been choke pointed on this bridge. They're going to try continue to push forward, but Romanian squad have made it to land. Let's say likely going to be now they have that land advantage. Going to be GLA failing to get across this bridge and into zone, and perhaps rely on Sensei God, who's made an absolutely bottom of a rotation past Romanian squad and into the compound ahead of them.
Do you see Rambo getting dropped, which is a little bit of a shame because it's the jungle. It's meant to be Rambo's homeland. It's where he's meant to really strike the hardest. As Clay GLA did get 2 victims down, or two of them were down as victims at the hands of Romanian squad, so that's going to leave Sensei God, I believe, on his own. Fresh goes down at the hands of Bloodline, I believe, as they gotten towards the high ground. Aaron also gets dropped by Bloodline, but the circle shifts down on the southeast with Team Push. Nicely positioned inside the circle, along with Gun once again, sitting pretty well. I wouldn't say sitting pretty because they did lose 2 players and Herbs is knocked down, so it's going to be up to Mamula, who's inside that sniper tower. If he can hold on against the 2 members of Be My Loot. He has the high ground, but he's a little bit exposed should his head get peaked. So as he moves away from the sniper tower, and he's behind a rock, the support from Alpha should help to get the better of him. But down on the rock, he drops. He's going to get taken out. That's going to be My Loot going to continue on in this game. Nicely placed, nicely played, and that's going to be the end of Gun. And I don't know exactly what happened, but you know, it's a shame because, as I said, the rotation from Gun initially was really good. Maybe they just got caught off by Be My Loot.
I think they just got picked off one by one, and Gamers Unite Nations, they were kind of split there. They had to be forced outside of that sniper tower to try save their teammate. They couldn't fight all of these teams rotating down into that zone as a solo inside of that sniper tower. Unfortunately, being forced out of the high ground by Be My Loot, and then trying to pull that drop shot. Be My Loot anticipated that, and unfortunately wasn't able to turn fast enough to take down Andy.
Time to shine. Looking for the fight. Gonna get one knockdown, another knockdown. Nahaya showing off against Scrim Farm, leaving Scrim Farm with just 1 player up. Now, if he can go and get the revive onto Daddy, that would be very imperative for Time to Shine surviving in this game, because it will leave them up as 2 players. He's being careful because I believe he knows or has an idea that somebody is looking on in the distance. In this situation is, of course, MVP. As a Bloodline, they have to push up on towards the river. They're able to take down the Sirens from across the way, creating a little bit of space for them to move in. As the Romanian squad are taking the heat against MVP. MVP taking on a couple of fights at once. They did lose 1 player, Danny, earlier on, but as a 3-man team, they're trying to create as much space as possible, with Killer getting dropped by a Romanian squad. The Blue Zone moving in. Phase 5 is about to show its face as Naya gets taken out by the side of Time to Shine. A little bit of revenge, leaving Daddy on his own.
Look at this zone now. Going to be only that sole 2 buildings there. 1 on the road, 1 in central of that compound, that kind of sniper tower there. And it's all going to be about how teams play around the rocks and the bushes here, the trees, as well as blockades. Sandhawk is going to be more forgiving because there are going to be rocks more frequently and trees more frequently around this area, rather than just be an open plain for these teams to fight on. But it's going to be who can reach kind of the top of this zone in terms of the typography there, to make it into this zone and get these kills. These teams rotate closer in. MVP going to be sandwiched between all these teams. There's Tika so low and Senso going to try and make their way inside this zone, but maybe the Noisy Boys going to try and cut them off.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at right now. I can see there could be a potential cut-off. Tika was revived up, was very low in health. Senzo is going to be the only full player up, and he's going to get attacked, but he drops down Ked. Just like that. Of course, the return knock by Agon is able to take down Senzo, but it's still... Sorry, not take out Senzo, but take down Neymar. It means that Senzo is still in... Actually, no, Senzo got dropped, so it is just going to be Tika left standing for the side of MVP. Can the revive be pulled onto Ked? I don't think it's even worth it, because as they are on the edge of the circle, Team Push are pushing up the hill close by to them. We know what Sanhok is like in regards to third partying. Agon is able to close out the kill onto Tika with the Molotov, as Bloodline are going to be in the shedding blood stages as they try and stave off the pressure of Be My Loot.
We're going to see all of these teams Be My Loot, the side of Bloodline and the side of Team Push. Past Team Push have this more advantage on the west side to take down these teams. They're going to have to be only one survivor in the next minute or so, because that zone is just going to shift in it once again. Now approaching at phase 7 zone already. The Noisy Boys trying to make their way in. Be My Loot going to be trying to jump shot, and it will find Alan, and that's going to allow them now to move closer into this zone with Team Push the next team to contest.
But now, Be My Loot have to push in. There is Team Push in front of them when you talk about pushing. Omega Dragons, we haven't talked too much about them, but they are still in as a full squad. It's just one player left standing for the side of Clay GLA Sensei God. Healing up nice. He's on the western edge of the circle, but he has a full squad in front of him, and it's Sebi that's going to drop him to the ground. 3 teams left standing. Team Push, Be My Loot, and Omega Dragons. Is going to be Sebi dropping down Mario just like that, like a drop of a hat. Is going to leave Alpha on his own as Andy was taken down, but inside the blue zone he is. So he's chunking down quite nicely, doing what he can before he gets headshotted out there. Pat the headshot bolt day for the side of Omega Dragons. 2 teams left up. It is going to be a 4v2, although in saying that, Sportsman and CLW doing exactly what they can to provide and create that space. In phase 7 circle has shifted against both teams, so they have to try and find some kind of angle down each side of the hill to get into the circle.
And this circle has 0 players inside of it. Team Push ahead. They're going to lose CLW as they get poked down from the edge of that building. Sportsmen going to be having to revive them. They cannot try and make it just a dash in. Perhaps they will, but going to get powerful shots fired, but they do survive and now revive.
Oh no, oh no! That's a grenade! That's a grenade! That's a Tifa! Coming in to clean up the job, and Omega Dragons get the chicken dinner. I saw that on the corner of my screen. I know CLW and Sportsman saw it as well, but it was too little too late. It was nicely cooked, nicely placed, and the chicken dinner goes over to Omega Dragons.
An absolutely disgusting grenade there for Omega Dragons there to finish it off, secure himself a chicken dinner. Then Omega Dragons haven't been that team who secured that first chicken dinner, but do secure the second, and even in the first game were dominant, trying to pin down all of those teams early on. And I really like the positioning coming out from this team between the first 2 games, and moving on to Miramar, where positioning is going to be even more important in terms of getting in terms of topography and getting the high ground versus your opponents in that map. Is going to be all Omega Dragons. We're going to have to see how they perform in the 3rd game.
But Team Push, once again, getting a consistent result. It's not quite the chicken dinner, but in the top 3 each game is nothing to be sniffed at. 5 kills for them inside that game. Be My Loot in 3rd, taking down Bloodline to push their way in, and they got a nice juicy 7-kill game. Clay GLA in 4th, which considering they lost 3 players early on, Sensei God was correct going through that bridge ahead of his team because it got him up into 4th place. And Noisy Boys moving on down the hill, 5th place, only getting 5 kills. Like, I say only just because it's a Noisy Boys and how aggressive they can be. Bloodline in 6th, Roscoe in 7th, MVP in 8th, Scrim Farm in 9th, Universe in 10th, Time to Shine in 11th, Sirens in 12th, Gun in 13th, The Real Deal in 14th, 4 Romanian Men in 15th, and X Team in 16th. What a solid game inside this Anhawk. And honestly, I think the circle shifts were, generally speaking, not too bad. We didn't see any craziness of a shifting into the direction of one of the other islands, right? Kind of coming into phase 2, phase 3, all the teams knew it was going to be on that Southwest Island.
Right, and I think that's what we can know early on as well from the Noisy Boys was their most dominant kind of push in that game was taking MVP out of Painan and forcing MVP to fight all of those different teams just on the outskirts of that compound. And with Noisy Boys controlling that compound against MVP, firing down on them and having direct line of fire onto Sirens and Bloodline, moving into that south bridge and into the zone was just an absolutely the best position for any team moving in around that phase 2, phase 3 and 4 zone.
Oh boy, 150% indeed. So after game 2, of course we have game 3, which is pretty standard, right? But as we look to get set up, get into the room and get all these teams ready, gonna go for another break, but we will be back to you guys in a couple of minutes, hopefully with proper audio as well, so don't go away. Okay, mic check. Mic check. Yep. I have audio on OBS. It's a miracle, guys. I can start a segment with audio. It's a miracle. But we're back. Game 3 of the ProEU PUBG Mobile Scrims. We are getting into this Miramar game. I am, of course, joined by the one and only, the beautiful HighlandWolf.
Beautiful.
Yeah, man.
Well, I mean, I'll take it.
Exactly.
Oh, no, I'll take it to come down here. You're
You know,
beautiful,
like,
you're beautiful
if
too,
you
don't
want, I
worry.
can call you worse, like.
Oh, no, you're beautiful too, don't you worry.
Aw, thanks, buddy. Thanks, buddy. I think this plane trajectory is pretty beautiful as well, man.
I know, I was just gonna say, I mean, this is a beautiful sunny plane path here on Miramar, if I do say so myself. And these zones have been really interesting.
Wait, one thing. Just one quick thing. Wait.
Yeah.
I have to dab. That's for Marissa. But she put a dab. I had to dab and I wanted to do it while you weren't talking. Anyway, continue, my friend. Go ahead, talk about this plane trajectory.
I was gonna say this plane trajectory moving straight over San Martin is gonna be the main location around Picado, Monte Nuevo, and I suspect around this Picado Hill is gonna be a point of contention as well. But more notably, we're gonna see the usual drops on Cruz de Val. Hacienda de Patron, Monte Nuevo later on, Chumacera, even Los Leones gonna perhaps see a drop of a team or two, perhaps if not Impala, gonna be these teams dropping towards the south. And I think, as we always look at the amount of teams that are dropping down on this later area, I think could be Monte Nuevo.
Yeah, Monte Nuevo kind of in play, but you know, just see a little bit of an early game interaction between Bloodline and MVP, both dropping around the power grid area. Not as full squads, 2 members of each team are in this area, which is pretty standard because you tend not to have a full squad drop in one area like power grid because there just isn't enough loot. But what is nice is that it's 2 members of each team.
Right, and we do have only 5 teams currently inside of this zone. 11 of these teams going to be outside of the play area in phase 1 here. As that hugs that eastern wall of Miramar, you're going to be even more water in play here, Imperium. I mean, this zone is thirsty tonight here, continuing.
Nearly as thirsty as I am, Kappa, but I tell you what, also not as thirsty as these players are for kills. We have already lost.
The noisy boys are for kills. I mean,
there you go. Couldn't have said that better myself, man. Couldn't have said that better myself. So, but yeah, like you're saying about only having like kind of 5 teams inside the circle, but a good like 3 or 4 of them are on the edge of it, right? Well, actually 3 of them are. It's only time to shine. And Omega Dragons that are kind of pretty nicely in the central part of this phase 1.
Right, and it's going to be a lot of these teams rotating in, and we're going to see blockades of teams around Power Grid, around Hacienda de Patron, and also that San Martin Picado Hill that we were talking about earlier at the start of this game. That's going to be where the congestion is for these teams, and I suspect Noisy Boys may be going to even rotate deliberately further north into these teams to continue their aggressive style of play.
Also have some fighting that was going on between Sirens and Clay GLA. Clay GLA being able to get 2 kills onto members of Sirens, so that's going to put Sirens in a tough situation in this Miramar game, only having 2 players up. And you know, I feel like this is one of the maps that they're probably weakest on as well overall in performance, so that's not gonna make it any easier. But like, surely the one solid thing about this kind of
welcome to the Ginger Club
phase 1 circle, Highland, is that it is going to be relatively easy for teams to rotate on the southern side of this phase 1, right?
Thank you
the
for the
likes of
follow.
the Noisy
Welcome to the
Boys,
Ginger
X
Club.
Team, 4 Romanian men are going to be able to shift down past La Jordera, possibly come in via the coastal line of Valdemar and get into that kind of south of Los Leones location for phase 1.
Right, and it would be a very interesting rotation there to go down Valdemar at South Island and then follow the road down that side road and track down across to Puerto Parisio and then control that location from there. Suspect that and almost predict that zone to shift towards that location. And Pala might also be a place where teams start to just take a hold of, even if we do look towards phase 2 Imperium to see where these kind of locations will be moving further into this game.
4 Romanian men, they're on the outskirts of El Pozo. Well, they're outside El Pozo, more closer towards the Power Grid area. Currently a bit split up as a 2-1-1. There is X-Team in Monte Nuevo. But I feel like for Romanian men, they probably are one of the toughest rotations to get into the circle, because if they go by San Martin, it's a viable rotation, because they're not going to be too heavily spotted down on the south hill over from San Martin. But if they go down south, they're going right into the hands of X Team and the Noisy Boys for now. So I can kind of see for now why they're a little bit split up to try and get as much information as possible.
Right, and it's about also trying to find the right angle into this zone. Looking at where players are on the map, they do have the most vision of any team where the players are in this game so far, being sandwiched between them. But with that vision advantage also comes vulnerability with being taken down by all these teams around you. And as we see the side of Romanian squad making that push towards X Team, might be now the time for Romanian men to squeeze down south towards TMB and then move east towards Los Leones around that road.
Bloodline did take down MVP, so we are down to 15 teams within the first 6 minutes of this game. So what started as a little bit of a 2v2 Power Grid fight ended up going over into the favor of Bloodline, with MVP losing all of their squad. 2 members of Bloodline are surprisingly rotating further away from the edge of the circle. Obviously to still loot up a bit, but it's surprising that they're going further away from the edge of the circle, as we do see the side of a Romanian squad and 4 Romanian men. So 2 of these Romanian teams respectfully fighting each other, but we have seen BAM go down at the hands of 4 Romanian men. So 1-0 to Rosq, so to speak.
Well, this is going to be interesting for Romanian men about how they come together, because look at WWS all the way down in Los Leones, and there's going to be a massive rotation, a massive job for Rana and Andrel there to rotate down closer to their teammate. They've got to thread the needle, so to speak, between these players to recuperate as a 3-man squad, because WWS is not going to be able to hold these teams at all as they rotate further into Los Leones in a couple moments.
Yes, but the good thing is that he is so far into the circle now, he might not have all of this information right, but because he is so far inside the circle, he is in theory scouting out. He can in theory scout out a strong, solid position for the rest of his team to join up. Now the rest of his team, which is of course only 2 players,
thank you for the follow,
are choosing to try to go through the hills of Power Grid, where 2 members of Bloodline are waiting in the wings. And also close to the whole squad of Bloodline. So 4 Romanian men, not really sure how they want to try to rotate in a circle, which does spell a bit of a weakness for me, because I feel like when you're rotating, whether it's early, mid, or late game, you want to at least look like you know where you're going, to not just the people watching, but to the teams around you. Whereas when you kind of look, okay, well, do we really know where we want to go? And that shows, it's going to be a weakness, because teams are going to look at that and they're going to go, wait, we can catch this team out, because they won't really know where they're going. They don't really know where they want to go, but we know where they want to go, and we can catch them out off that.
Right, and it also depends on how confident a player feels. If a player is hiding inside a building for, say, 2-3 minutes, that team then knows that that player is likely probably on their own. They likely don't have a team because they're not moving, they're not making plays. So that team then circles around that sole player and eliminates and takes that compound, albeit cautiously as you'd expect them to do. But Lost Zone is finally seeing those teams rotate closer in towards it. And I'm surprised actually the Noisy Boys opting for a more safer route down to this south end.
I like it.
Still got a little bit of time before this zone switches into phase 2, and then we'll be able to really see exactly where these teams need to be moving.
Yeah, we are seeing a little bit of a slow early game. It's to be expected in Miramar. The members of Bloodline joined up as a full squad and find this side of Scrim Farm, but not going to take too much, as Scrim Farm finally have all 4 members of their team playing in this game. First 2 games are only starting as a 3. Jaja has joined up for this 3rd game, so I'm excited to see what they can do. But phase 2 shifted heavily up north.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting zone. Still got that central location. Going to be an interesting central location of that crater there on La Bandita. Team's going to opt to instead go directly into that crater, but more around the mountainside, I do imagine. So see Scrim Farm perhaps rush towards that hillside to get advantage over Formeranian men, also trying to take that location on the map. Be My Luke going to rotate towards the northeast side of that crater. So I suspect around this circle of the smaller circle on the center of this map going to be where these teams congest, but just outside of it we see Scrim Farm looking like they could be pincered between Formeranian men and Bloodline if they're not careful.
Right now, the Noisy Boys trying to find time to shine, and Fresh Indeed does get a knockdown onto Will. That 2-2 push is really helping to put pressure, but the high ground by Daddy is going to be able to get that counter knock in play. Will has indeed been confirmed, so even though it is still a 3v3, if the revive can come through on towards Ked, will at least put it into the advantage of the Noisy Boys. Using that low ground to their advantage for now, because they are aware that with Swave and Naiha on the high ground backline, it's really compressing the Noisy Boys and stopping them from going further. That's why Whiskey has cooked up a beautifully placed grenade to knock down Daddy. It's exactly how you want to continue to gain control on a team fight. Nicely played by the Noisy Boys so far in this fight.
Right, and especially as you try rotate up such a steep cliff, and this is a difficulty with Miramar. If you are on the low ground, it's much more a disadvantage.
Thank you for the follow and welcome
map
to the Ginger Club.
The terrain on Miramar is so steep on a hill, you are virtually trying to climb a 90-degree incline sometimes and trying to find a way up top, and that can take time if you're not familiar with the map to a T and exactly how these mountains are shaped. So as you see Fresh in that flank there trying to find a way onto Time to Shine to distract him as their teammates make their way up onto the top of the hill.
All the while looking at the location of a couple of these other teams. The Whiskey gets a knockdown onto Daddy, and Naya's going to get taken down as well. Going to leave Swave on his own. See a nice spread of teams come on between the north and the south side. Going to continue on this fight between the Noisy Boys and Time to Shine, as it's gotten even more exciting with Naya being dropped to the floor. Swave is going to be on his own. It's going to be increasingly difficult for him to stave off the pressure of the Noisy Boys. Another well-placed grenade is able to put Swave down to low health, and Ked jumps up to finish the job. 4 kills for the Noisy Boys in the early part of the game, and control on the south side of the circle.
Yeah, unfortunately they weren't Swave able to find that knockup they were looking for, so Ked didn't have to go down lower to revive them, and instead could just push down Swave and take that hilltop. But interestingly, Rescue, their Romanian squad, have actually rotated further north to directly north from the Noisy Boys. They rotated around that fight, didn't go for it, and have now taken control and up shop around the mountain directly north of the Noisy Boys. Going to be the next team most likely that they'll have to face. The crater, though, still going to see teams around the west side be pincered in around each other, squashed in. And so we see like 5 of these teams around this western edge of the zone.
But I gotta say, in my eyes, the core area when you're looking at this phase 2 heading into phase 3 has got to be La Bandita. Scrim Farm have disengaged away from Bloodline, they've moved around, and they're looking in towards the La Bandita area because it is center circle, it's a high ground, and if you do need to disengage on the other side in towards that crater La Bandita, you can. It's such a great area to play around, and you're able to, once done right, create a hell of a lot of control around the other teams. Of course, we don't know where phase 3 is going to go, but I really like the position of Scrim Farm.
Yeah, likely gonna play around that area. If it does shift further northwest, we could even see that hilltop of San Martin Picado still be in play, and that's why we don't exactly see JLA or Sirens moving too far into that zone, but yet playing on the edge, because that zone is just about to shift in, and we're about to see the phase 3 there is gonna drop down, and that crate is gonna be less of a talking point. Is that now that road is gonna feel like deja vu for game number 1 there?
I think it's a better talking point because it's on the edge of the northeast circle. If Scrim Farm holds on to the south side of the Bandita, there's a higher chance that they're going to be able to punish teams. No team is going to rotate into La Bandita. They're more likely going to rotate around, so it's going to give Scrim Farm an even higher chance of controlling the La Bandita area. Of course, as the Noisy Boys are going to rotate right past and through ROSQ. They've avoided the action initially, but they've yet to really get away from that. But I don't think they necessarily want to get away from that. This killer is going to get dropped to the floor by the Noisy Boys. Can Rambo at least help to get some work done for the side of ROSQ? No, he will not indeed, because another grenade from the side of the Noisy Boys is going to get that knockdown onto Rambo. Can QA look to keep the pressure off into Noisy, but I don't think quite likely, and quite unlikely itself, as another couple of kills for the Noisy Boys. They just don't stop stopping. They do not give any team around them a chance to survive, a chance to breathe. It's the second they smell blood, they strike, and this is what I love about the Noisy Boys side. It's not that they're overly aggressive, they're just aggressive in the right moments, and it's so clean to see.
Right, and his patient aggression coming out of this team, and their engagement, they're not filing in one kind of vehicle or one direction. They're splitting up in 3 different locations. We saw even Fresh make a hard rotation around to the west side, just in case Romanian squad tried to make any funny moves towards the edge of that roadside, tried to escape. Fresh had them pinned down. So they forward think these teams ensure there's no escape point for these enemies, and then from there they rely on that main kind of squad of players, if you like, to finish him off.
A little bit of a nicely clean rotation from the side of team push, going right in between Scrim Farm and ROSQ and the Noisy Boys. But this is what I talked about. They weren't going to go into La Bandita, so because they've gone around, Scrim Farm have been able to take a couple of shots off. It hasn't pushed team push away, you know, so heavily, but at least it's creating that gap for when the next circle does show up, where Scrim Farm could be given a little bit more space to rotate in to the circle. Of course, Team Push will have to be aware of the fact that the real deal is behind them, that there is going to be more likely teams around them, as Mario did get knocked down.
And it's gonna, as you say, be that kind of journey down the mountainside from La Bandita towards that roadside to the south, kind of east of this zone shift. That zone's gonna continue to close in. We're almost at phase 4 already, and these players gonna have to make another move as that zone shifts very hard west on these teams. Gonna be a really mean rotation, and this funnel of teams to make it through the road and into zone is gonna be immense.
This is where it gets a little bit difficult for Scrim Farm. They have to clean up this fight as quickly as they can, or disengage as quickly as they can, because if they leave it too late, they're going to lose any kind of valuable rotation and push into the circle. Because when you look on the north side of it, Bloodline are continuing to spread themselves quite cleanly across the northern side of this circle to stave off any pressure teams pushing in.
An X team on the other side as well. That could be the fight between Bloodline and X Team that teams are kind of hoping will take place, but
Oh, no.
X Team are on the backside, and also Gamers Unite Nations along the edge of those buildings towards the roadside, watching teams come in. There's almost no way that teams from this western side of the eastern side of the zone can move in, and even Universe gonna try and make that sneaky rotation on the map though down to the south, perhaps gonna distract Gamers Unite Nations right at the right moment as Be My Loot and the Real Deal now make their moves inside of this zone.
We saw Jody from Scrim Farm go in on his own towards the members of Team Push and kind of got dropped forward. Luckily, the rest of the team were in the back line, so it gave a little bit of spatial awareness because Abstract got knocked down. Lanuz made her way on the bike. Team Push will know that because the sound of the vehicle has proved to alert the members of Team Push. But because that revive had to be put on towards Bobby, it is allowing a bit of time for the revive to be executed onto Jody. The Noisy Boys did rotate right past both of these teams, saying, hey, look, you know, you fight amongst ourselves. We are going to keep on rotating into the circle. And indeed, they go, as these two teams are continuing to fight against each other.
Look at teams now rotate along the rest of this south and this east side. Mega Dragons Antifa, they're just getting past the Real Deal fight and the rest of their teammates as they know Omega Dragon is going to fall down as the Real Deal made that rotation there to close them out of the game. Only Antifa going to be surviving right now, but Gamers United Nation going to look to finish them off. And also on the west, the eastern side, once again, sorry, should I say, it's going to be Team Push trying to close against Scrim Farm. But both these teams likely in a fall as this is a phase 5 zone. If none of them can make it inside of the play area.
Yeah, and the phase 5 they shifted heavily down south against the side of Bloodline, Be My Loot, and the side of Clay GLA. All these teams are generally fighting against each other. Well, not so much Bloodline. They're just waiting in the wings, so to speak. It's more about the Clay GLA and Be My Loot fight. And as angles are going to be provided by Kijiri. He's going to get dropped though. Not before Yunka does go down indeed. So it's going to be nice fire back from Sultan. But that grenade by Clay GLA to knock down Sultan leaves Alpha on his own. Of course, in amongst the smoke, he's going to go down to the little dip side, get that revive onto Kajita. But you can't help but think it could be a bit too little too late for the side of Be My Loot.
Yeah, they have pits and not the greatest of run-ins into these teams. They've still got a long way to go as that zone did shift south. So they're going to have the most, really, any of these teams as well as GLA to make their way into zone. Alpha's trying to finish off GLA as they make their rotation, their run-in. But they can't quite find them. The Hill's going to deny those first down. Perhaps going to find it. Yunka's almost going to fall down, but Alpha can't quite finish him off. And Tanik's still going to be alive here. Fire grenade, trying to desperately finish him off over that hillside.
Wow, what a good play from both sides, because the side of Clay GLA moved in onto that vehicle, but they stopped because they realized it was more risky under pressure. Of course, they were able to at least in some way initially get away into a further spot, but as they look to run around, it's going to see Tanik drop Yunka on his own. Blue Zone is closing in. We're getting to the final moments of this game. Bloodline pushing on towards X Team from the north side of the circle. Like I said, they avoided the two teams that are fighting further up north in the Blue Zone. So now they're up as a full squad. Is going to be up against a full squad of X Team. It's going to be very interesting how this is played out. Phase 6 did go away from these two teams, but we'll keep on this fight for now as the vehicle has been blown up. Two members of Bloodline are in one house with Olin in another, and Burian on the outskirts, trying to find some counter angles and stop any kind of misplay from the side of X Team.
Well, it's going to be X Team trying to defend against that full squad of B1 Bloodline going to try finish them off. And Omega Dragons Antifa going to pick off Gamers United Nations to that south bend one by one. Going to now have a way inside of his zone as well. Universe also going to be that other team. They have made that rotation all the way from the south bend to the west side of his zone. They now have the easiest way inside that zone. And airdrop also going to land on top of them. But that's not going to matter because they're going to look for these kills now.
1v1 between Outro and Spray on the southeast side of the circle. We have Outro inside the building. Spray on the outskirts again on the swap side. Spray is going to take a lot of damage. The drop shot coming through, but it's not going to be successful. And Gun come out on top. Outro keeping the fight for survival as Zaniel is still inside this game. Zaniel's on the off peak looking for possibly Universe. Of course, he's pinched between Antifa of Omega Dragons as well, so it's not going to be easy for Zaniel to in any way crouch up to get an angle onto any of these teams. He knows, he sees DC, but he does not want to strike just yet. He's waiting for the perfect moment until he can guarantee to get the double knock. That's going to be one onto DC. It's going to be another onto Gold Touch. This is what Daniel does best. Of course, he is going to be avoided by Antifa, even though Antifa is on the high ground. Antifa can't really move too far away. And Zaniel from Gun, what an incredible double knockdown indeed. He has to prone back down to avoid the shots being prone, come out by Error. Where is his teammate? That teammate of his has to provide some kind of angle that can stop Error from taking down Zaniel. Such a great play from him.
Antifa's holding on to try to take down Zaniel, but we can't move out behind that vehicle because Outro's just on the other side of our hill. Antifa can't finish off this player that is absolutely just ripping through the entire side of Universe right now as they're making their way desperately into zone. This is now phase 7. Teams have to make it into this play zone or be absolutely wiped off the floor of this game by that blue zone itself.
4 Romanian men have to cross the road. Why did Chicken cross the road? To get wiped out by teams across the way. Can they create that wall of smoke to make their way into the circle? Outro's looking in their direction. I think he knows he's waiting for the time to strike against the members of 4 Romanian men. One has gotten across the road. That's going to be Rana as the blue zone closes in. Error is also kind of pushing his way through, but Error is not going to spot Rana just yet. As he goes inside the minivan, it's very risky, but he is going to be able to find one, Andre, but Rana is going to return and clap back down. Go Universe as we get into 3 teams. It's 4 Romanian men, Gun, and the side of Omega Dragons.
Well, Omega Dragons have snaked their way into 3rd position right now. Perhaps going to look for 2nd. I hope the Gamers United Nation is going to fight versus the side of 4 Romanian men. Have also made their way into zone somehow between all of these teams around them. It's a 1-for-1 right now, and it's going to be Rana inside this building. Going to try slide down Antifa as they do find that confirm on the kill there. Rana versus Zaniel. The grenade's going to be cooking. Can they find Zaniel for dinner? No, it's going to bounce off, and Zaniel is going to survive for now.
Just 1v1 between these 2 teams. It's getting ever closer. Rana is able to confirm the kill, the squad wipe onto Omega Dragons. But of course, the low ground is favoring Zaniel. The reason why is because he's able to peek and shoot a little bit more somewhat aggressively, because Rana, the second he gets close to the top of that little hill, his whole body is exposed to Zaniel. We've seen Zaniel pull out these moments time and time again. He's become an integral part of the Gun side as he tries to find Rana. Zaniel's a little bit lower in health. He gets closer to the edge of the rock. Rana has to go for Gun, go for glory. Indeed he does, but he does not succeed. And Zaniel gets the final killing blow and gets the chicken dinner for Gun.
Rana didn't shoot fast enough versus Zaniel on that hilltop, as you say. The height advantage there, just playing in favor of Gamers United Nation, securing himself that chicken dinner, but also for Romanian men doing the work against the side of Omega Dragons there, putting them down into 3rd position. Universe gonna fall in 4th, X Team in 5th as they wiped down Bloodline into 6th position. The real deal 7th, gonna be the Noisy Boys in 8th position, GLA in 9th, Be My Loot in 10th. It's gonna be Scrim Farm in 11th position, team pushing 12th for the right side of Romanian squad, so in 13th, Sirens in 14th, Time to Shine in 15th, and down in last place, unfortunately, going to be MVP wiped out early on.
What a couple of interesting circle shifts towards the end. We saw it go a little bit harshly down south. It did hurt the side of Be My Loot. And, sorry, Bloodline more so than Be My Loot. I think Bloodline got taken out, I believe, by this side of 4 Romanian men trying to shift down on towards that south side, but it was definitely all about. Was it X Team? Okay, fair enough. I didn't quite see or recognize what happened on the feed, but I presumed it was 4 Romanian men because 4 Romanian men survived on the north side of the circle. But yeah, X Team got the better Bloodline.
Yeah, unfortunately, X Team with Bloodline, they both got caught outside that Phase 7 zone, which absolutely burned them alive. And that zone did so much work for these final couple of teams moving into the zone, because those teams that had made it in first survived through the kind of just annihilation of players in that blue zone. I mean, I think we saw about 10 or so players get eliminated, at least by that blue zone moving in.
Indeed, indeed. So, after Game 3, of course, we have the last game of the day. Game 4 going back over to Erangel. But before that happens, we will once again go for the final break of the evening. But don't go away. More fantastic Zenith ProEU PUBG Mobile action coming right up. Yeah, let's get into it. Last game of the evening in the Zenith ProEU PUBG Mobile PMCO Scrims with myself and HighlandWolf. Jeez, okay. Whew. Hey, an excited little wolf, you know.
I wouldn't have had to start, but you set it up, so I was like, yes, let's go. I'm excited. I mean, we got one more game of action. We've seen 3 games of, zone shifts getting tougher and tougher and tougher. And in game number 4, I want to see the most evil Arangle zone shift ever I've ever seen in PUBG, because we're getting there. We're building up.
Toxic.
Yeah. Well, if anyone knows me, they know I like some evil zones.
Yeah, it's fine by me, fine by me. I also think this playing trajectory is a little bit evil. I know quite a few teams land on the west anyway, but I feel like it's a bit of a pain in the ass for quite a few of these teams.
Yeah, and I think what it's going to do is actually congest more teams towards where these kind of drops of these Western favored teams are going to be dropping. So we're going to see more teams condensing around Novka, around Quarry, around Hospital and Georgia Pole, and maybe see teams fly over to Ruins and Pachinki. But further than that, not going to be really seeing any teams there at all.
So yeah, gun dropping relatively early, but going past military base, so they could be looking to go towards Nova and then rotate up the Eastern Bridge, get a couple of vehicles. Same with the side of Clay GLA. Curious as to where they go. Team Push have dropped relatively early and have gone into Military Island, but they've opted to going towards kind of more the west side and not the actual base side. Siren's gonna choose to go to Primorsk, which is their second drop spot. Makes sense. They probably could have made Severny, but I think they're okay with staying in Primorsk for this last game of the day. Drop earlier, loot earlier, and then be able to rotate earlier. So it's a nice choice by Sirens.
Right, and what we're kind of looking for in terms of my evil be straight on to Stauber and Kameshki. Well, I tell you what, we got Stauber. There's one.
Well, it's right on the east. I tell you, it'd be damn side of a miracle if it ended on Stolbar with that phase 1, but you maybe got to think Sirens feel a bit cursed that they should have gone for Severny, you know what I mean? It would have put them in a much easier position for this phase 1 circle. But that's the RNG of this game, right? You can't always predict how phase 1 is going to go. Like I said, the fact that they've dropped earlier, loot earlier, in theory means that they can rotate a bit earlier to get inside that circle.
Right, obviously if you're going to drop towards more the center of the map, it's more likely that you're going to be inside that phase 1, but we've seen so many times and times again, the first phase zone can still shift, as we just saw with Miramar last game, right into the corner of the map. So it can be anywhere to play for in terms of zones and where you seem to drop. Just drop where you feel comfortable, and as you say, Sirens are going to patch, rotate along this coastline, up through Hospital and Georgia Pole, and then into the game from there.
Scrim Farm have the members of Rosq surrounded, and Jody finds them. That's going to be the end of that. One player down for Rosq. It's now just Rambo and Ra that's standing as Scrim Farm. Last game of the day, go back to 3 players. Maybe they feel like they can get a better result with only 3 players starting compared to 4. No shade, Jody. I love you, man. I love you. But I did say to during the break on the Twitch chat, I did say to Bobby at Team Push that I wanted a chicken dinner from Team Push in the last game of the day, and he said to me, "We will try for you, Imperium," and that's all I can ask for. Of course, because they did land in military base, they do have quite a far way to go, and with a couple of teams in front of them, they might choose and opt to wait for even phase 2 to show up before they in any way rotate into the circle.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely going to be perhaps when these teams rotate off that side of Island on the west side for Team Push, they need to play it well and perhaps also learn actually actually from that first game bit, post that 5, 6, 7 minute mark, Omega Dragons might be camping at bridge once again. So getting off that island early might be a good thing to do past for Romanian men. But look at the positioning from Omega Dragons right now. Antifa going to be directly ahead of that bridge. So even if they do decide to rotate off there early on, they're still going to be met by Omega Dragons, albeit just one member.
True. The rest of the Omega Dragons, I feel, are a little bit split pinched between the members of Be My Loot, or at least 3 members for now, who are moving a little bit closer. I do wonder if Be My Loot are aware of that. They know Antifa is, because they've seen that buggy fly through. The shots are going to be put on, but Antifa doesn't take that much damage. It is a buggy, so if the tires go popping off, it could put them under pressure. But I think Antifa will be fine for now, moving around and joining up with the rest of his Omega Dragons team.
In talking about players left alone, Ked might be vulnerable here to MVP, who are going to be looking for some sort of return from last game where they got eliminated in the last position. Ked going to be that first target, and we see Tika does have that positioning on him, prone right now in center, also going to be pinstering down from the other end. So TNB maybe need to make a rotation with Aegon over to Ked just to help keep them alive, or if not, just unfortunately let Ked die and be down to 2 players, because they've already lost Whiskey in this game.
Yeah, it was that little bit of a 1-for-1 trade between MVP and the Noisy Boys in the early parts of this game. I'd seen it on the feed. I don't know exactly who took down Whiskey. I'd imagine it was the fallen comrade of MVP Danny, but of course Ked I believe clapped back and got the kill on towards Danny. With MVP kind of have him surrounded. Let's see how the Noisy Boys and Ked in particular plays this. They're not exactly far inside the circle, so they will still have a little bit to go. Omega Dragons are rotating into Primorsk? Like,
yeah.
That's very weird and strange. Okay, so that makes me think that Omega Dragons aren't really doing their homework on teams, because this isn't a weird drop spot for Sirens. It's not. It's their second drop spot. I know that. Nearly everybody knows that. You have to you really have to know these teams' rotations and drop spots more so than rotations. Because otherwise, this kind of situation can happen as Aaron looks to throw out a grenade to connect onto Necro. It will get a little bit of damage done. But yeah, poor by Omega Dragons, I feel, to be honest.
I think they got pushed down away by Be My Loot and looking for more loot themselves. As you say, they have made that pull rotation into the full squad of Sirens, and Sirens already controlling that compound have the positioning that they need to press onto Omega Dragons. Take that team fight, take those kills. You saw that first knockup already get taken on to Brooding.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be tough for also Omega Dragons rotating down to get back up and into this game, because Be My Loot are rotating up shortly. TMB and MVP will do the same. And if they start to spread out along that kind of southwest side, it's going to be difficult for them to find a way through those players and into the game.
Possibly. I do think the rest of Omega Dragons are kind of leaving Narco on his own, as Narco's trying to cook up a grenade, but return grenade by Luna onto Narco will get that knockdown. So that's going to be 2 kills confirmed for Sirens in the early parts of this game, and it's going to put Omega Dragons in a position where they're going to have to find some kind of position in this circle as only a two-man team.
Yeah, the rest of this map looking so far very split in teams, very comfortable position away, or distance to say away from each team just now in phase 1. Gonna have to wait for phase 2 for a slow game to speed up a little bit like we saw in Miramar. Gonna be a slow start versus what we saw in game number 1 in Erangel, where that zone was very much get down to the South Island as quick as possible.
The real deal gonna be in this game as a full squad. Hackshot was one of the 2 original The Real Deal players from the previous PMCO split is joined for this last game of the day. Maybe had to work late or whatever, but it's gonna be nice to see in some way what they can do as a full squad in this game. They have rotated their way up towards Rosshawk, which is not a bad spot to be considering this phase 1 circle. Of course, the phase 2 can go anywhere in terms of the north or south side. We'll have to wait and see. But what a rotation by Romanian squad. I forget exactly where they came from, but that's a boat rotation, baby.
Yeah, I was just looking at myself, and I wanted to point that out, actually. With the rotation to the north side towards Severny, I would imagine so. They're going to be able to loot up a location that hasn't been touched so far, and be comfortable if this zone does continue to shift further north. If it does stay north in this ocean, it's going to continue to restrict players around this map. And also this river along this kind of central belt of this zone so far. Is going to split teams and force them to make plays around bridges that they may not be comfortable with if it does continue to go north.
In the blue zone of phase 1, we see Agon gets dropped by the Noisy Boys. I believe the revive should be nicely executed by Ked. I don't think MVP really want to take this fight. They just want to keep the pressure on the Noisy Boys. But this flank position by Tika could really prove to be quite fruitful if he's able to connect those shots with the DP28.
Yeah, the Noisy Boys are going to have to do some work making their way into zone. They are, as you say, pinned behind MVP right now. Tika on that flank side to the west is going to make that rotation round. Still only phase 2 zone. That phase 1 zone going to tickle these teams. And I tell you what, a team is that has to do a lot of rotating round is actually the side of Clay JLA, looking all the way down and know that they're going to have a massive marathon run into that zone.
Thank you for the follow and welcome to the Ginger Club.
Probably phase 4 here in Imperial.
Yeah, and I think that's okay to be perfectly honest, because you know, they have a lot of space around them. So it's going to be pretty solid for them. The side of Team Push are still inside this game. They have been able to move away from Military Island. I think they went in from the eastern bridge and now come in on the eastern side of this circle. As MVP and the Noisy Boys continue to fight, it's going to be MVP getting the majority of this game, majority of this fight. Agon is left on his own, but as he's going to take the blue zone tick damage, he'll be able to get over first aid kit in time. He does indeed. As we do see Neymar going to come in. Is he going to be able to drop Neymar in this 1v1 inside the wall side? Agon continues to keep the fight alive for the Noisy Boys. This is why Agon is regarded as one of the strongest EU players right now. Not only that, he's going to be able to get the revive onto Fresh. Neymar should have waited for his teammate Senzo to come. Sorry, not Senzo, Tika to come cropping up the building to have that man advantage. But now as Tika comes in, the fight, the strike, he's going to get taken out. Agon with the 1v2. This is the Noisy Boys. This is why they will always be up there.
The team fight play for Noisy Boys is phenomenal so far. Agon barely scraping that first aid kit there into their pockets and securing himself the health they needed to get that 1 versus 2 off. And the decisive play as well. A second first aid kit before taking a fight. Topping up their health bit, the blue zone was tickling down before they could then take that fight, securing himself that second kill and then reviving their teammate on a sliver of health. So making the smart play, not rushing to try get a second player up and securing, as we say, those 2 kills.
Thank you for the follow and welcome to the Ginger Club.
They've got that entire to the south of that zone free for themselves.
So the center of this phase 2 circle is relatively out in the open, but there is quite a decent bit of higher ground. This is where we've seen Time to Shine and Bloodline in some way try to find some areas inside the central part of the circle. Bloodline are going for a bit of a 2-2 split, but they're going right into the hands of Time to Shine. They knew that was going to be happening. You can't get that kind of engagement without paying the price, but that will of course push the whole of Bloodline away and give more space for Time to Shine to stay protected in center circle. Like, I really love that rotation from Time to Shine, because that area with that defunct plane, there's a lot of little dips around. You're able to get a lot of information and see teams rotating in. It's such a good position by Time to Shine.
Right, you got a crater there to hide against teams just in the center of that plane crash, but also a massive hill for enemies to climb. So you've got a really distinct advantage for any team trying to move up towards them. And maybe we might even see Scrim Farm be the next team to try it, perhaps X team as well. But I doubt that any team will be able to challenge Time to Shine on their own. They're going to have to rely later zones and more teams trying to push them in from different angles before Time to Shine are really going to feel some pressure.
Bloodline have been pushed away closer to the side of Universe. Universe landed in North Georgia, were able to push up into a nice position inside the circle relatively early on in Phase 2. I believe they waited for Phase 2 to pop up to relocate themselves and put themselves into a nice positional spot. Have Gold Touches flanking around towards that shack area, trying to find some kind of bullets and shots on towards Bloodline. That's grenade being flown through. You have a little entryway to a small underground shelter for Bloodline if they do need to take advantage of that. The high ground is going over into the favor of Universe. But Phase 3, HighlandWolf, it shifts up north.
Yeah, and that's going to now exclude that river, force teams past those bridge into the north end of that island, should you say so. Remaining squad are going to still be comfortable with that northern rotation they made from Phase 1. Their Game of United Nations will going to have to pull off a two-team attack here, is both the side of Clay GLA and the side of Team Push make their way towards that northeast side of the zone.
Be My Lou shifting on the eastern side, relatively decent amount of space around them. Gun are continuing to strike hard, strike fast, and protect their area. And the team's coming in, it's just going to be Sportsman. It's going to be in front. He's going to get dropped to the floor by Herbs. Nicely done indeed. Although with the car 98 by CLW does take down Mamula. Another vehicle going to be thrown up to try and provide that little bit of protection if Zano can get revived up. But no, a third party from Clay GLA is going to stop and take down Gun right in front of them. That's going to be too much to handle, and that is giving a little bit of respite for Team. Actually, no, because yeah. Sportsman has been taken out by his own teammate as it happens, but that's a little bit of a mistake. At least Team Push have survived so far in this game.
Look at Be My Loot straight behind JLA right now. They're looking for these knockups. Is Kajadi there? Okay, we're going to try find a kill here. We can't quite find it. Now going to try pins the JLA and deny them an escape route.
Yeah, this is a hard area to play around on this kind of side of the hill, because you're not really that well protected if you go towards the left or the right side, and then playing on towards the center. This is tough in itself. Of course, I think it's one of the better areas for protecting yourself against these grenade pushes. You see one of the members of Be My Loot with a nice little bolt action. So let's see if he can get a headshot knocked down. And then the side of Clay GLA are going to push forward. Raxman leading the way. And Uzi in his hand extended. Mag 35 bullets in that clip. Ready to lick off the head of any of the Be My Loot members. With grenades flying, it's pushing back the side of Be My Loot. Nicely done by Clay GLA. But Yunka is going to get dropped. Roxanne is going to be able to take down Kajidi in amongst the smokes aside of Be My Loot, trying to protect themselves. And that's going to be the end of GLA, Clay GLA, at the hands of Be My Loot. Only suffering 1 knockdown and 0 deaths. Nicely done by Be My Loot.
Yeah, they decide to Be My Loot. They're making the rotation around behind JLA to secure them off and cut them off at their escape routes, we did say before. But that zone going to continue to shift towards that northern edge. And Ross, Q, The Real Deal, and Time to Shine going to be the only teams inside. The rest of them need to rotate in. And that south end looking pretty dangerous to the Fools. It's got a Time to Shine on it, the edge.
Yeah, it's going to be good for Time to Shine because they won't have to worry so much about what's going on behind them. Although there is still a couple of teams you're looking for. Romanian Men, X Team, and the Noisy Boys. These two teams are fighting against each other before Romanian Men have just chosen to disengage away. And wisely so as well. But they will be getting close to the side of X Team. X Team choosing to use shooting range as a bit of a rotational play, but Team Push are going to be right in between them. 13 teams left, 36 players. Burian is going to knock down Jaja. That's going to be the end of him indeed. We do lose another team, with X Team and Team Push now fighting for the right to party, should I say. And Bobby starting things off, getting a nice kill.
Well, Team Push got in there quicker with their vehicles versus X Team. They weren't on the mark there and unfortunately lose their position inside the zone. They're now going to have to take the chances versus Be My Loot, but four remaining men aren't done here. They want to finish off X Team first.
A little bit of a third party, but it decided Team Push Team Push and four remaining men not looking the safest, because you have Time to Shine looking down on them, you have X Team, you also have Be My Loot as well, looking to try and get any kind of off-angle knockdown. Now I believe is going to be the end of Team Push. Indeed, they go down in 12th place. Feels bad, man, indeed, but the real deal are holding on to this little shack and high ground area overlooking these teams.
Yeah, dreams crushed. You're not going to find the chicken dinner in game number 4. Going to have to wait for another day there, Imperium, for your dreams to come true on Team Push. Rosq still sitting pretty low on that north side, and also Universe going to sit there as well, but TMB Fresh might upset that a little bit. Also, all of these single players coming around, this is why we have so many players alive right now and so many teams alive, because there's so many just single players in these teams making their way into zone.
Indeed, phase 5 about to show up. God Killer on to Alpha to confirm that kill, putting Be My Loot down to 2 players. Kaji got knocked indeed, so that's going to put Real Deal into a little bit of a position where they possibly take down Be My Loot. As the next phase has moved on up, and it is going to be in the favor of the Real Deal. But of course, the high ground held on to by Time to Shine can at least put them into an advantageous position with 11 teams left.
Yeah, 11 teams still not even in our top 10 here at 21 minutes into the game. Is a slow game for eliminations on these teams. All these single players gonna have to look for a way inside, but standing strong is gonna be Universe and Time to Shine with these full kind of squads here in play. Unfortunately, Universe did lose one, but they're gonna sit on the edge here with these 3 players, make their way down south. We will see 4 Romanian men gonna drop down there to X Team as they make their way further in west.
There was also a little bit of a shot and knockdown come down from Time to Shine as well to help to eliminate the side of 4 Romanian men. Still a bit of space on the north side of the circle where Bloodline are close to. Omega Dragons gonna get taken down by the side of Siren. Siren still have 2 ladies up. Ali surviving with a sliver of health along with Cakes getting revived up, but they will have to try and make their way into the circle, and they're gonna have the Noisy Boys on one side and Time to Shine on the other side. Like I said, the uphill area is really giving that advantage to Time to Shine, giving them full control on the south side of this circle as they overlook all these teams.
Well, the Real Deal are going to do exactly the same, as they're going to be pushed in here by X Team. Godkiller driving straight into the fight.
Yeah, as Universe are going to be pushing
Thank
on
you
down.
for the follow and welcome
Zombie
to the
got
Ginger
knocked
Club.
along with Nightmare, leaving just Godkiller left standing. He's further away from his 2 comrades, so it's a high chance he's not going to get any kind of revive off. He throws out smoke to protect himself a little bit from the members of Universe. Of course, Universe might not have all the information. They don't indeed, as Godkiller catches out Gold Touch. Can he get another knockdown? Let's see what happens. He does indeed. But actually no, it was Azzy from the Real Deal that got knocked down onto Broly. Broly was able to find that last remaining player, Godkiller from X Team. So down they go. 6 teams left, and Azzy's looking pretty damn good in this game for the side of Real Deal. 2 players left, 3 kills for them.
Yeah, and all of them going over to Azzy has just been so comfortable on this east and south side, but now Time to Shine gonna have to make their move off that hilltop and into the game. Finally, Rosq also gonna have to do the same for the north side, and it's gonna be about how much the Real Deal can try to fend on this hill.
Well, for the Real Deal, it's definitely going to be a little bit difficult, but I think they're kind of protected against Time to Shine, especially when you look at Azzy. He kind of has that little bit of a dip of the hill where, you know, he's avoided by Time to Shine. He can focus a little bit more on towards Universe. Shifu's inside that shack, so he has that little bit of protection. Nyla is able to find DC. It just leaves One member up for Universe Gold Touch. Can he stave off the pressure? RozQ. Bloodline still looking pretty good inside this team as a 3-man, but Burian gets knocked by Will of Time to Shine from up the hill. The confirmation come through. Swave was knocked by Shifu, but that should be okay. Time to Shine will continue going on in this game. We can't forget about the Noisy Boys. They rotated on the west. They're a little bit on their own. They've created a huge smoke wall to make their way inside the circle.
Bloodline Shifu gonna be that 1 versus 1 right now. They're holding off against each other.
Oh, inside the shack it goes, or outside the shack. The knock comes in by All In. Well, of course, RozQ is gonna get third party, should I say. And in the end, Bloodline will keep on going. Kapahala on a sliver of health. Elizazi on his own. 14 left in this game. The Noisy Boys, Time to Shine, the real deal. And Bloodline. But Time to Shine, they have that full squad advantage.
They do, but the furthest outside of zone. TNB also making that rotation round, but they're going to be sniped out by Time to Shine as Fresh falls.
Indeed.
And Bloodline going to be next to make their way inside the zone.
I like the fact that Time to Shine have been constantly moving on their rotations as the circle has shrunk in. They haven't gone for any bold push, but they've just consistently moved in. They haven't let themselves get put under pressure by the blue zone, which I think is always very important because it means that they feel more comfortable. Of course, they've been able to take advantage on the high ground overlooking these teams. As you can see on that 2-2 split, Time to Shine they have full control leading into the final moments of this game. Even though we have 7 players up, all four of those players are in one team. Azzy trying to save off the pressure by the grenade. He's going to get chunked down to about half health. Prone down on his through. Kapahala is going to get dropped all in his face and that blue zone tick damage. Will he be able to survive and make his way out? No, he won't. Bloodline go down. 2 teams left up. Azzy against the world. 1v4 down on the side of the hill. He's going to get taken out. Time to Shine close out this game and finish off on a high note in these ProEU scrims.
Yeah, the real deal had that best position advantage and keep moving later into those zones, but Time to Shine had the members versus every single one of these teams. We talked about how it was 11 teams and 20 players, but that was because all of those teams were like solos, duos, they weren't full squads, and Time to Shine took full advantage of that moving into later zones.
Sorry, 2 seconds. I'm actually just going to time out somebody in chat because they were actually self-promoting. And that isn't something that I do. Feels bad, man. Feels bad. But yeah, go through the results of this game.
Well, it's going to be a real deal in that second position, surviving. Bloodline going to be in third. Going to, unfortunately, not find out second place. It's going to be the Noise Boys in fourth position, Universe in fifth, remaining squad in sixth position, X Team seventh, Sirens eighth, Be My Loot in ninth, the Omega Dragons in 10th position, Former Iranian Men in 11th, Team Push 12th, Scrim Farm 13th, GLA there in 14th, Gamers Unite Nations in 15th, and 16th going to be MVP, unfortunately, once again.
Yeah, and just to kind of, touch upon what can happen in an early game can help create that little bit of a chain reaction. And it's not much, and loads of things could have happened in between. But initially, when Time to Shine pushed back Bloodline, they create that space like they kind of touch upon. And because of that, Bloodline were put under more pressure. Now, Bloodline still had a solid result, but you got to think if they hadn't pushed back Bloodline, and they had to have allowed Bloodline to get closer to them on that hill, it would have been a lot harder for Time to Shine to have created such a controlling position coming into the late game. So that kind of little bit of forward thinking, that creating the space is so valuable for a lot of teams to do in these games.
Right, and also note that as that game went on longer and longer, the amount of players that the real deal had to take care of, and the amount of teams they had to take off, slowly whittled their players down to just Azzy. They had those two players for so long, Shifu trying to hold off all of those teams in the north side. But when they get taken down, there's only Azzy in the grass in the open. And from their time to shine, all they had to do was just throw the grenades onto Azzy, stop them moving, while they pinned down Bloodline behind the shed, took them out, and then from there it was easy pickings.
It was indeed. Overall, a really good set of games. I like the finishing on the north of the river. I do still believe that a good few of these teams need to learn to rotate a bit earlier. Whether they're aware of that and they're just using these scrims to push themselves when it comes to fragging power, fragging potential, etc. That's fair enough, but I would like to say that if you know something doesn't mean you're going to execute it straight away. So, for example, you might know you need to rotate earlier. You might need to know you need to rotate in a certain way, but if you try to do it without practicing it, it's going to be harder. So I think it's something that I hope a lot of these teams kind of take on board. Scrims are there for testing yourself, but it's also for honing your ability to rotate early, rotate effectively inside the circle. We saw Time to Shine. Let's not forget, Time to Shine landed, on the kind of south area of the map. It was towards the Milta area, and it was a little bit similar as Gun as well, even though they didn't do good, but it was around that area, and they rotated early. They rotated around Yasnaya, and then they were able to I think it was around Yasnaya, it might have been actually, either way they rotated early, and it really benefited them.
And I think what was the rotation really pulled out the most beneficial for a team was Rosh Q there. They were down just to 2 members early on, and they took that boat, they took it passive on that north side, and they moved themselves from what could have been down with MVP at the bottom of the leaderboard all the way up to 6th position.
That's true. It's that level of dynamic play that helps make a difference, right?
Right, and especially versus a team like GLA, which I would say did a worse rotation. They waited so long. Yes, that can help you free up space on the map, but they went in the wrong side. They went in the most heavy side of the zone on that western end, and unfortunately got caught between about 3-4 different teams at once.
Thank you for the follow, and welcome to the Ginger Club.
So on that note, I'm going to end the stream and the broadcast. Thank you very much to everybody who tuned in, for supporting the stream, for supporting the games, and supporting the teams. I can see Bloodline has a lot of support, and that's really great to see. And on that note, thank you to HighlandWolf for casting with me. You can give him a follow over on Twitter at
HighlandWolf_.
There you go. So go over and give him a follow on Twitter. You can follow me on all my socials in the next scene. And afterwards, I will end the broadcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. Stay safe, be awesome, and see you all tomorrow for some more ProEU Scrims.